Hello, I'm Elizabeth Day, and this is my novel, The Party. The dormitory was a long, carpeted room, lined on either side with 2 beds, 4 in total. The double window at one end was framed by curtains patterned with footballs and cricket bats. The walls were painted a mild, sunny colour. It was clear that an effort had been made to make it look homely, and yet, paradoxically, this only served to emphasise its institutional strangeness. When I was shown in, there were already 3 other boys in the room unpacking their trunks. I mumbled a hello, but no one acknowledged my presence. They were chatting loudly to each other about their holidays, and I caught snatches of their conversation here and there as I shuffled to claim the bed in the corner closest to the window. Mate, she was gagging for it. No, she fucking wasn't. I swear. She told me. Her sister was at the fucking Feathers, I'm telling you. She's a right slag. Yeah, and there was that time at the Admiral Coddington and she was bladdered, geezer, bladdered. Such a loser. They seemed to be talking in code, a conversational shorthand filled with names I could make no sense of. And although what they were saying was delivered in aggressive, foul-mouthed terms, they were laughing as they spoke. One of them occasionally breaking off to punch another one in the arm or slap him lightly on the back. The boys were taller than I expected and seemed older than me. They looked almost interchangeable. The same floppy fringed hair, the same brown deck shoes, the same open-necked, deliberately unironed shirts and V-neck jumpers with threads coming loose at the cuffs. My own clothes appeared outdated by comparison. Neatly pressed suit trousers, polished school shoes, and a plain white shirt buttoned all the way up to the neck. My assurance started to slip. My cheeks grew hot. The edges of my mind curled with uncertainty, and I began to wonder whether my determination to get out of one life had led me to leap blindly into a worse situation. I knew, as I unzipped my suitcase, another thing I had got wrong. The other boys' trunks were brass-buckled affairs with stenciled initials underneath the handles. That I would have to learn a whole new set of rules if I were to survive. I unpacked rapidly, largely ignored by my roommates. Jumpers and T-shirts in a chest of drawers, shirts and blazer in a rickety wardrobe with initials carved into the soft wood all the way down one side. I stuffed my boxer shorts into a canvas bag and bundled them under the bed. At the bottom of the suitcase, I noticed, to my shame, that my mother had packed a small brown teddy bear without my knowledge. The bear was called Howard and had been given to me at birth by an elderly aunt I had never met. Howard had been my constant companion for many years, his checked waistcoat fraying slightly more at the seams each time my mother put him in the washing machine. He slept in my bed, propped up next to the pillow. I didn't pay him much attention and indeed had forgotten all about him in the exciting hubbub leading up to my departure for Burtonbury. But I suppose my mother, in a moment of uncharacteristic tenderness, had been concerned I might have noticed if he hadn't been there. Seeing him squashed in the corner of my case, his arm out of kilter with the rest of him, elicited a series of complicated feelings. There was a surge of nausea, a clutching at my stomach, which I think must have been homesickness, followed by a stab of embarrassment, superseded by horror. I wonder now, looking back, whether she did it on purpose, whether she knew that putting it in there would make me squirm, whether she wanted to remind me that however much I tried to escape her and the suburban house with the double-glazed windows and the stuffy sense of not belonging, I would never entirely manage it. I tried to zip the case back up with Howard still in it, looking at me reproachfully, but one of the boys chose just that moment to come across. "What's this then?" he said, leaning over and grabbing the bear roughly. "Your ickle-wickle teddy bear." He lifted Howard up and moved the bear's arms with his fingers in a parody of a puppet show. The other 2 boys snickered obligingly. Have you come to help your ickle-wickle master settle into his new big school, Stop it, I said quietly. Please. The boy glared at me. His eyes were cold. He had a spot just below his left nostril which flared red from having recently been squeezed. Give him back, I said. Him? The boy sneered. Him? Hear that, lads? The bear's a him. What, does he get up in the middle of the fucking night and hang out with all the other toys for a fucking midnight feast? A teddy bear's picnic, one of the others suggested, guffawing. Yeah, exactly. A fucking picnic. The boy drew back his arm and, before I could stop him, lobbed Howard across the room. The bear hit the wall and slid to the ground, flopping face down onto the carpet. The other two boys picked him up, taking an arm each and subjecting Howard to a brief tug of war until one of them grabbed possession, ripping the bear's arm in the process. I glimpsed a plume of white stuffing unravelling from the loosened joint. Howard went sailing over my head again, pitched like a rugby ball from one end of the room to the other. And although I should have just left them to it and walked out of the room and gone to find something better to do, my upset and humiliation rapidly calcified into something more stubborn. I began to feel enraged. Howard might be a stupid, childish teddy bear, but he was my stupid, childless teddy bear, and I think now I must have objected to my possessions being treated with such arrogance. I was always so careful with my own things, you see, never liked to share. I believe it's a trait of only children, but really, when you look at how callously people treat things, how they fail to discern their real value until it's far too late, how they knock over priceless Ming vases in museums with their oversized backpacks, it seems to me to be the only sensible way to behave. Protect your possessions and, by extension, yourself. I attempted to intervene, jumping up to try and intercept the looping arc of Howard's trajectory. The harder I tried, the faster the throws became. I was shorter than the other three, and they knew they had the advantage. I could feel the pressing clamminess of tears. My vision blurred, then tightened, as if a sheet of cling film were being stretched across my brain, and I could feel the rage coagulating, a hard nugget of a thing, chipped and coal-black at the base of my spine, sprouting and twisting into fury which climbed up each vertebra, all the way to my heart and throat, sticking in my chest like a pool of warm tar. I could hear the snap and crack of the bird's bones underneath the crush of that rock, and before I knew it, I was clenching my fist in readiness to smack their stupid faces and punch each one of those boys to the floor. A draft. The dormitory door opening. Confident steps across the carpet. And then a voice. What the fuck are you doing, Dom? The boys stopped immediately. Howard the bear dangled from one of their hands. I raised my gaze from the floor and turned. There, standing in the square of the doorframe, was a curly-haired boy with a smattering of facial hair across his lower jaw. His voice had broken, and when he spoke, it was with absolute certainty that what he was saying was the most important thing anyone could be listening to at that given moment. "Oh, piss off, Ben," said the boy with a spot by his nostril. "Give it a rest, Dom. Leave him alone," he said, talking as if I weren't there. "Matron'll hear. I've got a bottle of vodka for later, and I don't want her finding it, okay?" The mention of vodka seemed to pacify Dom. He pushed a hand through his hair. The other two busied themselves with their unpacking. One of them started blue-tacking a poster of a girl in a tennis skirt to the wall. "Yeah, sure," Dom said, the spot by his nose seeming to get redder with each word. "Sorry." "Cool," Ben said, turning to leave. Just before he did, he looked over his shoulder directly at me. His eyes, caught in the light, looked silver. You don't need a fucking teddy bear, okay? He walked out of the room. I snatched Howard back, wanting now to rip his stupid head off, and I stuffed him under the bed behind the bag with my underpants. He would stay there, ignored, for the rest of term. I forgot about the bear until it came to packing up my possessions to go home for the Christmas holidays. And then he emerged, cobwebbed in dust and flakes of dry skin, glass eyes hardened by resentment at his abandonment. And I threw him in the bin without a second thought.